Hey you guys, this is Josh
and Carolyn
with Homesteading Family, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pantry Chat.
Right.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
And what are we talking about this week?
Well, this is the Chit Chat episode of the year.
That's right. We are taking it a little easy, slowing down around the holidays. And so we're just hanging out with you for a few minutes, going to talk about what's going on with us, answer some questions,
right.
a little bit of a Q&A session, and maybe cover some upcoming topics going into the new year.
Yeah, so we're going a little freeform today, but we're happy to be here and hanging out with you guys.
So grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and have a sit down and let's get into it.
All right.
Yeah, so well, what's going on? What you been up to?
What have we been up to?
What have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I'm always up to a lot.
You're always up to something.
I'm always, that's the truth. So something really fun that I did this last week that I've been wanting to do for a long time is I made my first batch of homemade brie cheese.
You did.
We did. We can't taste it. And this is one of the challenges of cheese making is that it really needs to age for a certain amount of time. So you make it and then you wait. And you wait some more. Luckily, the brie cheese is not a long aging one. So we just have a couple weeks to wait, maybe a month. It has to grow its rind.
That's really, what do you call that?
Like reaching out
your roots, spreading it. Yeah, going for the brie cheese. I think that's cool. I don't know if you guys like brie cheese, but we love crackers with some good brie and salami and a good like spiced jam or jelly. That just makes a great picnic snack or I don't know, anytime. So.
I was hoping to have that, somewhere. We have family coming in here after Christmas. And so I'm hoping to be able to have that on the table or for a snack. Hopefully it's good.
Oh, it's gonna be
usually good. Everything
you do is good. You do great.
Well, most things.
Yeah.
There have been a few things.
It is an experiment.
It is an experiment.
I'm sure it's gonna come
But that's been a lot of fun. And I'm able to do that because we've moved the cow to once a day milking now, which means I am not flooded with like many gallons every day of milk. We've reduced the amount of milk that's coming in so that I can make some more small batch artisanal things rather than like, let's use it up as fast as we can and get 7 gallons into a pot to make cheddar or mozzarella.
So for those of you wondering about once a day milking, some people refer to it as hippie milking.
Right.
Some of the older communities we've been in, they kind of laugh at that and say, oh, that's hippie milking, that's lazy milking. But it's really, really helpful as you move through the season, as we move the cow onto just dry feed. Yeah, it's getting colder. It's harder for her for production. We're actually tired from the year and ready to slow down. And so we kind of ease the cow off and go to once a day milking for a few months before we start to dry her off, because we want to give her at least 3 months of rest, completely dried off before she calves and the cycle starts over. So adding that once a day milking program in is really, really nice.
It really helps with the seasonality of the dairy, because right now we've got a ton of butter. We've been making butter all season.
You've been saving up butter. The cream content isn't that great.
Right, so we're not getting a lot right now. We're actually not making a lot of butter right now, a little bit every week. But we have been all season, and we have that put up for the year. We've got quite a bit of cheddar cheese aging right now and up for the year. And so it's just a nice time to go, hey, let's make sure we still have some fresh drinking milk and some of the cultured milks
and play with some new cheeses
and play with some small cheeses and take the pressure off on the production side. So that's been really nice.
Looking forward to that.
Okay, but I have another update to give, because I know a lot of you guys are really interested in this and have been watching, and that's the garbanzo bean flour shampoo.
Hair's looking
so what
good.
Do you think? Are we doing good? I've used nothing on my hair for the last month except for garbanzo bean flour. No rinse, no shampoo, no anything, just garbanzo bean flour. And I gotta say, I'm really happy with it.
It's looking shiny and healthy
shiny,
and light.
Yeah. I feel like it's got a little more body than it often has. And I haven't had a problem with it being oily. And I've gotta say, usually when we start getting into the depths of winter, I will start having a little bit of problem with my scalp getting itchy, a little bit of dandruff. I mean, don't repeat that anywhere. I don't ever have any dandruff, but really, it happens in the middle of winter. And I'm not having any problem like that. So I think it's really helping with my scalp health which is really nice this time of year.
So you're recommending it at this point, or is it long enough in, or you get a month in?
Okay, I gotta give you some caveats.
I gotta back this up. I know you're recommending it because you've recommended it to me for my beard.
Yeah, so who wants to see him use it for his beard?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you've got a man in your life, or you are a man in your life with a beard, and you want to know how garbanzo bean flour no poo works for beards, say so in the comments so we can get him to try to use it for a while. Clean up the beard. Right? But
will it smell better?
I can't give it like super thumbs up on the smelly side. I don't think it smells bad. Do I smell like a bakery?
No.
I feel like I'm cooking in the shower. Honestly, like I'm stirring up my little bit of flour, making sure there's no lumps, and then I have to wash out my dishes. Anyways, I have a few things. I have a good friend who told me the other day that garbanzo bean flour no poo was the first piece of bad advice that I have ever given her in my life. And that's because she couldn't get it out. She has really thick curly hair, super thick curly hair. And she's like, she started to feel panicky in the shower because she didn't know if she was going to be able to wash the stuff out of her hair. So, you know, maybe if you have super thick hair, it's not the way to go.
Do you think it's worse when you start out than as you get through and your hair gets used to it?
Well, you know, I haven't really noticed any transition period, which is really interesting because when I first went to no poo with baking soda, there was a huge change in my hair. And so I don't know if that's just because I've been no poo in the past or if you're giving me that look, or if it's just because it's garbanzo bean flour and there's not really a transition period. I don't really know, but I've got to say, if you don't get it out, you're going to look like you have the worst case of dandruff ever because it does flake out during the day because it's flour in your hair. So you do...
Especially if you've got dark...
Yeah, oh, that would be rough.
Hair.
Yeah.
Like
luckily, it kind of hides in mine a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's been a few days where I'm like, oh dear, I think I need to rinse it off better because it does get stuck in there. Yeah. So it may not be for you, but it may be worth trying it out. I'm really liking it.
Hey, it's an organic, natural, inexpensive solution, and we love it when we can combine making something better, cleaner, more organic, better quality, whatever it is, for lower cost. That's just, when you can hit that spot, that's sweet.
Yeah. So. And the great thing about the garbanzo bean flour is you can buy it in bulk and it's not very expensive.
Yeah,
so
cool.
That's really nice. Or grind your own.
All right,
there you go. So those are the types of things I've been up to. Oh, I actually have another thing I've been up to.
You've been up to more than that.
I know. I'm up to so much. I'm always up to something. Still. I have been building up my sourdough stock again. I'm getting really excited because inside our bread class we have
This is the Art of Homemade Bread?
The Art of Homemade Bread
master class.
Exclusive bread class, master class. We have an exclusive Facebook group in there for students of the class, and that is the best Facebook group I've ever been a part of. People are so supportive and so friendly, but we're getting really excited because we are about to kick off a brand new sourdough starting challenge in the beginning of January, about January 11th.
Yeah.
We're going to be kicking that off in the group. In the instructional videos that we do with that, my videos, we work through a kamut sourdough starter, a whole wheat sourdough starter, an all-purpose white sourdough starter, and a quinoa gluten-free sourdough starter, and then we bake with all of those. So I'm really excited.
So that's just the baseline to this challenge.
That is the baseline.
So there's a whole lot more going on with that.
So now we're all, a whole bunch of people inside that group, students who have been waiting to start their own sourdough starter, are starting new starters with all different grains. So it's really exciting. This year, I'm going to be going through the challenge doing a gluten-free rice flour and an einkorn flour, turning that into a sourdough starter and then baking with it. So really excited, getting super excited about starting some new starters. I already keep 4 starters in the fridge, and now I'm gonna add 2 more to my sourdough starter family. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. If you want to start a sourdough starter, this is a great chance to get in on this. We've got some special goodies coming up with that. So if you're interested in that, make sure you follow the link in the description to get on the special list where you have to be to get the information about this.
Right. To learn all about it, and you're gonna get you got to be in the class, so there's going to be some bonuses and some perks and a special price to sign up to get into that class to get involved with this. And this is, I mean, the class is already super in depth. I mean, you can go from no knowledge to mastering not just bread making, but all kinds of bread products and all kinds of sourdough. And from what I'm hearing about the sourdough challenge, it's just, there's some really great people in the class besides you.
Right.
And there's going to be so much coverage of different grains. And this isn't just like a video or two. This is step by step over a 2-week process of really developing your own sourdough from scratch. It just doesn't get any better than this for learning how to do sourdough. I should take it.
You should take it. Well, we don't need any more sourdough starters in the class.
There's a few things I'd like to do though. One of these days.
But yeah, it's a really in-depth thing. So if you have ever tried sourdough and failed or feel like you don't really understand it, this is just an amazing experience because there are so many people now who are now, from being in our class and in our group for a long time and working through this whole process, they're really kind of moving towards master bakers. They are impressive. There's a lot going on in there, and they are all supportive in helping each other work their way through making a successful sourdough starter and then baking with it. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun kickoff to the year.
Yeah, so jump in to the wait list for the class if you are interested in that.
That sign up is down below in the description somewhere.
Good.
Cool.
So
that's a lot of good stuff going on. Yeah. Oh man, well, let's see. We went and got the Christmas tree. That was a ton of fun.
That was so much fun.
We're really blessed to be able to go out on our own property or nearby Forest Service if we get a permit and cut our own tree. So we've been doing that for a lot of years now. And last 2 winters we've been here on this property, and we've been able to get it right here by our property.
That's really
And you got to come this year.
Yay!
Often we go up into the mountains, we get a permit, and we go up into the deeper snow, and the older kids go because they just have a blast. We take some hot chocolate and hike through the mountains and find a tree. But we wanted to make it so that everybody could make it this year because the little ones, just gets hard for Mama and the little ones to get through the deep snow. So we stuck close by and had a great time. So that was a lot of fun getting the tree, cutting the tree, and bringing it in and decorating it. So it's always a fun time of year for us. And I have just gotten acquainted with somebody that I've got to tell you about, and it is a family in Missouri. I'm sorry, I don't remember their last name, but Will and Melissa of Homestead Iron.
Ooh.
And I have some new tools, and I can tell you I'm going to be restocking
Grab this one.
My tool shed this spring. If any of you have worked with very many hand tools for very long, especially if you're a little bit older, you've seen a decline in quality, especially garden spades. And this is one particular style here that's a little more cupped, that is for planting starts. But I break them all the time right here.
I got a brand new one
ones
this
that
last
I think
year.
are good quality.
And I bent it within like 2 days. I was so disappointed.
And my friend Clyde over at Clyde's Garden Planner introduced me to Will and Melissa, and they just sent these to me, and I have not gotten them in the soil yet, but I am so impressed. This tool is an heirloom tool, and by that I mean not something you want to put on your shelf and look at, something that you can use for the rest of your life, and if you take care of it and don't leave it out in the weather to rust, your kids are going to use it. I mean, look at the handle on this thing. This is like, looks like 3/8 square iron that's been shaped to make the handle. This is never going to break.
Right.
It's absolutely never going to break. It's a very thick gauge. So anyways, I'm just having fun getting these into my hands.
I'm really excited
I'm actually talking to them about a couple specialty tools. And so really wanted to tell you about them.
Yeah.
And they are giving all of you guys, any of our subscribers, 10% off of any of your purchases. Cool. So whether for a Christmas gift or whether just as you're thinking over the next month or so, we really get to thinking about gardens in January and planning, and as you're thinking about your tools and everything you need, you really need to check out Homestead Iron, homesteadiron.com, and we'll have their website down below and a coupon code. But these, I'm just so impressed with this, with the quality of these tools.
What I'm really excited about these is that when you go to like your hardware store and you buy a garden tool, they are not actually sharp.
Yeah.
These are sharp, like these are weapon type sharp. These are great. These are really going to get into your soil. And you know, you read all the old literature, and of course they talk a lot about sharpening their gardening tools in the off season. And you know, I don't think you could sharpen a regular hardware store garden tool, but you look at this and you're like, oh wow, you could keep that honed and sharp.
Well, and you can sharpen it for decades to come, and it's not going to wither away.
That's really neat.
So it's exciting to me because this is about the least amount of gardening I think about in a year, December. And so to get these in my hand and start thinking about next year is just really, really exciting. I've had a couple great chats with Will and Melissa and just really enjoy them. And they're just a small homesteading family producing a really, really valuable, good product, and they're very really reasonably priced. So I'm excited about that. Besides the Christmas tree and that, gosh, we're just kind of getting ready for Christmas, doing some planning for next year.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess that's about it. Kind of taking it easy. It's nice.
We're starting to slow down.
Which is the idea of this time of year, is to
really
slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
You get going, and it's actually a little hard to slow down. What do I do with myself?
We are usually up first thing in the morning type people. We're usually up before the sunlight. And, I mean, sometimes a year around here, that's 4 a.m. The sun's coming up. So we're not usually up
You got to take advantage of the longer days right now.
Right. And so we have given ourselves permission to sleep in a little bit, which has been really nice, and catch up on a little rest this time of year.
And with that, we're going to take a break for at least a week on videos.
Yeah.
Between Christmas and New Year's. So we hope you guys have a great Christmas and a great New Year's.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a little break, lighten up, and just get ourselves refreshed with some family around and geared up for the new year.
Right.
And we'll talk about that in a few minutes here, some of the things we're going to dive into in the beginning of the year.
Right.
Yeah, that you guys can be thinking about. And also, if there's stuff you're interested in knowing about at the beginning of the year, we're in that phase right now where we're actually planning out our videos and new blog site.
Oh, big announcement!
Didn't think that we've been working actually a lot on that. I didn't really think about that. We have a.
Is it up?
It's not up yet. Our website's been redone, and there's actually a lot of free goodies there, different downloads that you can get.
Right.
And we're working on the blog site right now. It should be up by the beginning of the year, I think, somewhere in there. But there's going to be a new blog site, so we're working on that, and that is really exciting.
It is really exciting.
And so you guys leave us some comments and stuff that you'd like to know about next month and even throughout the year, because we're actually kind of building out a whole year's list of topics here.
Yeah.
Of the things that we're going to cover to help you guys out. So give us your ideas.
Yeah, we'd love to know what's on your mind right now. Like, what are you looking for information on that we can help from our angle?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we get into some of our ideas on that, let's take a few questions. Sound like fun?
Oh yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so right off the bat here from your Parker House roll video, it's actually not about Parker House rolls, but this is from Darcy Howell.
Did anybody try those Parker House rolls? Oh, they are so good. It's just the best rolls.
They're wonderful, yeah.
They're really good.
They really are. She says, where we live, we cannot have animals for our own meat, but there is a butcher not too far from here. Is this meat better than what to buy in the store, even though the stores have butchers on site and put the meat out as they go? This is a good question if you're looking into transitioning from regular store-bought meat to better quality meat. And the answer is not necessarily.
Yeah.
Just because it's a custom butcher doesn't mean the meat is better. There's a good chance, but you really need to know how the meat was raised. If you're going to switch products, I would assume you're looking for a healthier animal, healthier meat, better raised. And the butcher's there just to cut up the meat. They may have sources for you. You may be able to ask him. If you're looking for beef, hey, do you have anybody that's raising, grass-fed only beef? But you need to ask. You can't guarantee just by going to a custom butcher that you're going to get, it's certainly probably not as mass-produced as the store-bought meat, but it still may be very grain-fed. It may not meet the criteria that you're looking for. You really need to know who's growing your food.
So this really applies to larger animals. When we're talking about something like chicken and smaller animals, that's probably not what your local butcher has. Usually
probably not generally, yeah.
If they are, however, I would actually say the opposite is true. that removing those chickens from the mass slaughterhouses is a good move, because those are not a good deal. Those are very unclean in terms of their practices and their health practices.
They're growing and even their butchering. The life of those animals is just terrible, besides not a good quality meat.
But even the butchering process is not a great process for those chickens.
Awful.
So if you can get that smaller for your chickens, your small poultry, that is a good move. Whereas with the beef, there's probably not necessarily a huge difference.
Well, it's not necessarily a better quality, but you are moving in the direction of more local, which that's a great first step. If you can go to a local butcher who's processing meat from local producers instead of industrially raised meat, that is a wonderful first step, and go for it.
Right.
You just got to realize that you've got to dig a little deeper. If besides local, you want to go to a certain quality of meat, you got to dig into how the animal was raised, and probably go out to the farm or go to the farmer's market and go find your sources. And the butcher may be able to help you with that. That all just depends on the butcher.
Right.
Some are very keen on that and into it. Some of them, not so much if it's not traditionally raised. So just got to do your due diligence.
Right.
But good question. Let's see. I'm sure you would remember this. This is actually from the canning meat video.
Okay.
And Cody Lyles, sorry, I should have my glasses on. Does anyone know what pressure canner this is? So what pressure canner were you using? I assume that is your All-American.
I would imagine that is my All-American, probably the 941, which is, I hope I have my numbers right. Numbers don't always stick in my head real well. The All-American 941, which is the one that holds 19 quart jars. So huge canner, but I'll tell you, those things are a little bit expensive compared to the cheaper pressure canners out there, but they will last forever, and they're metal to metal seals, which means you don't need to replace the rubber gaskets. You don't have parts that you need to replace every year, every other year, or parts that can fail. So I really, really, really recommend those All-American canners. Great quality. You will be handing that down to a child. Like, it'll be in your will. That thing is going to last a long, long time.
And it's such a good point. Just like these Homestead iron tools, the least expensive tool often isn't the best tool.
Right.
It may be a good price, and we want to spend less when we can, but what we really want is the right price for a good value that's going to last on anything that we're doing on the homestead.
Right. You want to look at, with everything on the homestead, you want to look at the long-term effect. Is it a good value for the long term, not just for this moment right now? And if you're having to replace it 3 or 4 times, it's not going to end up being a good value in the long run versus just getting that good quality tool in the first place.
Absolutely. So, you don't need things breaking down on you on the homestead.
No, that causes a lot of frustration aside from money.
So this is a comment from our Homesteader Christmas gift guide we were talking about. And I thought this was just a fun comment about wrapping presents. Debbie Sherrill said you could also wrap your gifts with newspaper, the comic section.
Oh, that's fun. I like that idea.
Yeah, that's cool. So thanks, Debbie, for that idea. That's great.
That's a good one.
Let's see, Carolyn, I'm not sure if you can pull this one out, but on making your own lacto-fermented sauerkraut, Kathy Galbraith was asking how much salt in a general batch.
I'm sorry. I don't want to answer that without looking at it, because I really don't remember numbers really well, and I'll give you some really off number. So, so sorry. But you know what? In the description down below, there is a link to Fearless Fermenting. It is my PDF on fermenting. And that has the master brine recipe, so you can grab that download right now, Kathy. I think it was Kathy.
Yep.
And
we'll get that link in there in the description.
And yeah, you can grab that, and you'll have all of that information right there without me having to try to remember and hopefully give you the right number.
All right. So
and I'm gonna tell you honestly, when I ferment in the kitchen day to day, I do it by taste. I don't measure. Yeah, if you guys have watched very many of my videos, you'll know that it's like painful for me to measure things. Like, that is not my forte.
That is be cooking. Cooking is part science,
right,
and part art.
Yes, that is the
so
art.
much
I am
of this
an artistic cook.
You are absolutely an artistic cook.
Somebody referred to me as a dump chef, which might be another way.
That's quite the negative light, but maybe they're not.
You know what you're looking for. If you are the type of person who cooks by feel. You're looking for something that's about as salty as tears. You can go by that, that's what you're looking for. So you don't really need an exact amount. And yes, you can reduce the salt. You can add more salt. Most people want to reduce the salt. You just have to know you're going to tend towards mold if you reduce the salt amount. So you should definitely use a fermenter starter. Talk about all of that in that PDF. You can grab that.
Very cool.
Below, so.
And I imagine you cover that pretty well in the Fearless Fermenting workshop.
I do. I go through all of that.
So there's a great workshop, which we'll give you a link to as well.
Right.
Where there's the download and a video workshop.
Yeah, the video workshop
covers that really well.
Right.
Cool. Okay, so we get a lot of email questions like this, and this is probably going to need to be a pantry chat in the future, but we got to think how to approach it.
Okay.
Because this is about empty nesters and about being retired and homesteading.
Yes,
and of course, we're not there yet, but we are planning for it. So in response to a day in the life of Homesteading Family, a pantry chat earlier this year, Bonnie Nelson asked, how do you start homesteading after you become empty nesters? And great question. You know, for me, I would say really the same as anybody else. Start right where you're at with what you have.
Yeah.
And start picking up skills. If you're not making food from scratch, whole food from scratch,
start there.
Start there. If you've got a little space that you can grow anything in, start there. Even if you're in an apartment, there are these great vertical planters. Matter of fact, Greenstock Gardens, we'll put a link to them in the video, has some wonderful planters that are stackable for a small space that you can grow a bunch of veggies in, and it's not a large commitment, so that's another place to start.
Absolutely.
You know, buying in bulk, these are things we've talked about. Just throwing a few things out there.
Yeah.
If you have any other ideas or things that you can do right where you're at without a giant, well, certainly not without a move and without a giant lifestyle change. You can just start building skills.
That's always important, is to start small with what you've got right now. And as, you know, those skills start to snowball, you get one skill here, you start employing that. And then you get another skill, and then you're employing both of those skills. And then you get another skill. And that just really starts to take over. The great thing about that is that you can add those skills at the pace that you feel like adding them. You know, whether your life is full because you have little children and so you can just only go so fast at adding new things, or whether you're just not wanting to jump in, you know, full-fledged because you're not sure about health issues or whatever the issue is, you can control that. And I think that's so important, just to start one thing at a time, slowly at a time, because we know more people who have burnt out, not because they were doing a lot, but because they jumped into learning too much all at once.
Yeah, you don't want to throw all your resources and energy out there at one time.
Right.
You know, and I know sometimes people really want to get going, and so you got to know yourself a little bit and how much you can handle. But just start where you're at with what you can.
Yep.
And growing a little bit of food and cooking whole foods is just a great place, and you can do some of that just about anywhere.
Well, and the awesome thing about being an empty nester and coming into this is, you know, one raised bed of food makes a huge difference in the diet of two people.
Oh gosh, that year, a few years ago, we did an experiment in a raised bed, in a 4x8 raised bed, so 32 square feet. And this was all with leafy greens, which of course don't weigh very much. And I think we figured we grew, was it 80 pounds?
We sold 80 pounds worth of vegetables because we could not keep up with it. We had like 4 of these beds going, and we, out of this one bed.
That was plus we ate all we wanted for our family
and then we sold
in
80.
about a 10-week period.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't take a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. So just start right where you're at and dig into it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to mess something up. Just go for it. Okay, let's see here.
Hey, you know what?
What's that?
You look really good with glasses on.
Oh, thanks.
Isn't that nice that guys can do that? Like, they just age so nicely.
I don't know. Well, it doesn't feel good on the brain. On my eyes. Depends on what distance I'm looking at. But anymore, I'm starting to need these a little bit. Okay. Jordan Olson asks about on the video, preserve your eggs like George Washington.
So, okay, eggnog.
Kick that one into gear. The
That's
eggnog
eggnog.
video, the real eggnog video.
Real eggnog.
Because eggnog is a product actually of egg preservation. Today, that's not
Right.
how we consume it, but that's what it was actually for preserving eggs. It's
Yes.
it's amazing how many
And
things
you
are like
can
that.
preserve them on the shelf for months
Right.
in eggnog.
But you are altering them a bit, and so
Okay,
it's not
yes.
for everybody.
Yeah, you're not going to put them in your scrambled eggs after you turn them into eggnog.
No,
Okay.
and the kids aren't going to drink these.
No.
How long can you preserve eggs this way, referring to this method? You say 3 weeks minimum, but how far in advance can you actually start this? So I think somebody's actually thinking about, stocking up a batch.
Months. I have heard of people doing this successfully at least 11 months ahead of time, and they store really well. When you store anything in this strong of an alcohol, the problem that you're going to have is not that it's going to become bad for you or like go bad. What the problem that you're going to have is that it's going to kind of break down and maybe lose flavor and texture. So, we have done it. I think we've made it 10 months in advance of holiday time, and it has been great. Absolutely amazing. So I don't really know how far past a year you could get it before it started losing its condition. And of course, the cooler and more temperature stable you store something like that was hard to say, you store something like this, the longer it's going to stay in good condition. So if you are keeping this in a refrigerator, you might be able to get 2 years with this without any loss of, noticeable loss of quality. If you're storing it on your pantry shelf, yeah, you probably, you're going to max out at a year before you start going, hey, this doesn't taste as flavorful, it's not as good. So, sorry, there's not a real hard and fast answer to that, but you're really not going to go bad per se.
Cool. All right. 2 more. Well, 1 more question and 1 comment to end it.
Okay.
But this question, which just want to make sure they get a right answer here because nobody answered them, and I don't know if I can say your name. Chael Matthias. What if, this is in regards to, canning meat.
Okay.
Super easy raw pack method. What if you don't have a pressure canner? Can I use bath canning instead?
No.
Absolutely not.
Don't do it.
Okay.
There's a lot of theory and a lot of discussion that can go behind that, but the short of it is don't do it. It's not worth it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that needed a good clear answer. And
That's
lastly,
a clear
this
answer.
is mostly because I want to remember it, but some of you might find this interesting. Jennifer Mollett commented, this was on Homesteading Christmas Gift Guide, and we were talking something about hunting because Tristan and I had been out hunting. So that's where this...
Well, I think the question of the week last week on that video was somebody asking about starting to hunt.
Oh, that's
too.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is great, Jennifer. Thanks for this. I hadn't heard of this show, and we're going to want to go check it out, and
All right.
I bet some of you will too. It's called Fresh Tracks on Amazon Prime, and it is a show that allows you to follow a hunter. The main hunter is ethical in his approach and loves life. It's a great way to peek into hunting without actually going.
Oh, that
So
sounds like a good one.
yeah, it sounds like there might be a lot to learn, and sounds like something we might enjoy.
We might,
So
yeah.
Fresh Tracks.
Okay.
Check that out. And wow, you're getting some comments on some old videos here.
Interesting.
Preserving fruit.
Oh, that
sorry,
was
I'm
a
just
fun one.
Noticing some things.
That was a
Yeah.
long time ago. That's an old-fashioned rum pot. I haven't done that for a while. I'll have to do that this next year, where you actually... That's another alcohol preservative. Is everybody into alcohol this time of year? Where you're actually creating a alcohol out of your fruit and some sugar, just layering it into a crock, and it makes this almost like a candied fruit in alcohol. It's a very interesting texture, but people used to use that for their fruit cakes.
Well, and I gotta say, I know today these ideas aren't as common, and some people want to just completely stay away from alcohol, completely respect that and understand it. But what a lot of people don't realize is that alcohol was a very normal method for preserving a lot of things because it's extremely safe.
Yeah.
And it was normal maybe to consume some of that in moderate amounts more than it is in some parts of our society today. So it's not really that far out there. We're just not very familiar with it.
Right. Well, and you take something like this and you cook it in the process of making a fruit cake, and you're cooking out most of the alcohol. So, there you're kind of making alcohol
Unlike your
and
eggnog.
then unmaking it. Unlike the eggnog, absolutely.
Which you definitely need to take in moderation.
Yes.
But George Washington had a lot of stress, so he probably needed a few cups of his
needed
eggnog.
a little bit of that. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's a few questions, and we are getting on in time. Sorry, I'm just checking out how long we've been here.
Yep.
And so we're going to be approaching some neat topics coming up here in the new year.
Yeah, I'm excited about some of them. We've
I
got
am
some
too.
really fun things coming up.
So I think one of the first things we're going to be doing is looking back over the past year or a little more on our new place. We've been here a little over a year.
Right.
We've had a lot of questions about the farm, how's it's going, what's worked, what hasn't worked. And so, that's the time of year anyways that we kind of reflect and look back and answer those questions for
Right.
ourselves. So we're going to go through that with you a little bit. And just about settling a new homestead and some of the things we've done. And
Yeah,
some of the things that have worked and things
and
that haven't worked.
A lot of you guys know that when we moved onto this piece of property, there was some garden, some orchard, a few different pieces here, but they had been heavily chemicaled. They've been used. People before us had
They had
used a lot of
herbicide and
chemicals.
pesticide, and they had also gotten older.
Fertilizer, chemical fertilizer.
And they hadn't been able to take care of it
Right.
for a while. And
So we've had some remediation to do on this property.
Still do.
Also, we're still working on that. That's going to be a multiple year thing. But so we're going to look back at some of those things and what we've done. And
So that'll probably be one of the first videos of the year. We're also going to be looking ahead and taking you through maybe a little bit of our thoughts for the next year,
Right.
and talking about planning strategies, both for ourselves and things that will help you guys as you're thinking about, what to do in the upcoming year on your homestead, or even, if you're thinking about starting
right.
some of those ideas.
Yeah, I know I have quite a few goals for myself and my end of the homestead this coming year. So it'd be fun to talk about those things.
Yeah, it really will.
Good.
Cool. Let's see, what else is going on? We're looking at diving into zero waste a little bit.
Yeah, this is a really one that's really I'm excited about, because we have for years tried to reduce the amount of waste that we have, kind of it's kind of a gauge for how much we're producing ourselves versus how much we're bringing in from the outside.
Yeah.
And over the last few years with the moves, if you guys have followed us for a while, we had a succession of really quick moves there over the last couple of years. Just getting into survival mode, it's easy to start going back to the consuming, right? You're going back to the store, you're getting what you need because you just don't have the time to make it. And so I am ready to not only move away from that, move back to where we were, but then take some extra steps, move beyond where we were and move, further into, less waste. The term for the movement right now is zero waste. That's not really.
Well, that sets a high bar. That would be a nice goal. That's not a possible goal, but it gives us a direction.
Right.
Because we can always be moving towards less waste or better recycling of our waste and reusing.
Yeah.
There will always be room for improvement, and we will always have something to learn.
Yeah.
So it's a great subject to be tackling as we're thinking about some of the things we want to do.
Right.
And I'm sure some of you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
And I've got a really fun series coming out about old-fashioned remedies for health. We're moving into that time of year where a lot of people are sick, are getting sick. We're starting to hear it go around town here. People are not feeling well. There's that bug going around. And so it's time to look at great grandma's remedies.
Cool.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Right.
If you haven't seen the video we have out on the mustard plaster, that's a really good one. And a lot of people have cured chronic things with that. We've gotten a lot of really neat emails from that. But we're gonna be looking at a whole, bunch of different ones out there. One of the ones coming up soon is something called a garlic salve. And if you are a mom, especially of littles, you're really going to want to keep your eyes out for that one, because that's a really, really good one. Right.
And another thing you and I didn't talk about, but always comes with January, is seed catalogs and the beginning of garden planning. And so I love that time of year. Let the daydreaming begin. And of course, we're talking about a lot of permanence now. And so we're not just looking at gardens, we're looking at some tree purchases and some long-term investments, and
Lots
that's
of
even more
perennials.
exciting. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be diving into some of that, some of our ideas and what we're developing.
You know, some women collect shoes. I collect seeds. I might collect more seeds than I plant, but I have a thing for buying seeds.
Yes, you do. It's all right.
I
We can't
love
have
getting to
enough.
dream about the different things, and so
Yep.
we have a good seed collection. We'll add some to it.
Well, and a little tip too, we talk a lot about gardening. You're going to hear us talk a lot more about orcharding in the coming year and years. If you really want to build sustainability and resiliency is another word we're going to be adding into the dialogue. So sustainability is great. Sustainability is just the ability
Right.
to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay? Resiliency is to be able to keep doing that under pressure, under difficult circumstances, under trials.
And when do
And-
we most need things like our garden and
Right.
the orchard is usually when things get pressurized, when there's a bad circumstance.
And perennial systems are a key part of building resiliency into any homestead, even if you're on a quarter acre, an eighth
Right.
of an acre, fruit trees, nut trees, berries, all those kinds of things. You want to be filling up your space.
Absolutely.
So
Good.
lots of good stuff. It's going to be an exciting year, but for now, we're going to take a break. Going to sign off.
So you guys have a great
Have
end
a-
of your year.
Yeah, have a wonderful Christmas. Merry Christmas to you and your families. And we will see you soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.